wake. They're just going to try to take the race line to the best of their ability. At the moment, that's a really poor exit for Diaz. He's going to lose position to probably both Marnik and Christoph, but a little bit of a dirty racing from Diaz. He does close the door multiple times on Christoph. We'll have to see how that's played out, but it does hold the position for now. And Christoph has to try again. Obviously got a little bit of damage on that front end of that Cadillac with the contact with the GT3. But at the moment, then trying to look for a good slipstream on Diaz. That's Marnik in the background as well, trying to make the most out of this position. You can see Diaz trying to get past the GT3. It's so hard to try and pass in a corner like Parabolica, side by side of Diaz and Christoph, and Marnik is just behind them. Marnik's probably going to be the one to gain the most out of this. Man, there is just cars absolutely everywhere, and it is going to be incredibly difficult. I feel really bad for the GT3s. They're just being swamped by tons and tons of hypercars at the moment. A great camera angle again from Le Mans Ultimate. That's Jacob Wolny getting out of the way of the hypercars. Again, that's probably his best bet at the moment, but he's got to be careful. That's Marco Guzzo just behind him, so I wouldn't be doing that if I was him. But Christoph then takes P4 back from Diaz, and Diaz has to try again. But look how close these guys are, and they've already lost around 4 seconds to Barinda and Alessandro. Alessandro has pulled away now from Barinda, as you can see there, and he'll be looking to calm down a little bit more and try get his P1 back from Alex. So we'll have to see how that goes. The gap is currently 7.1 seconds. I'll keep you updated on that gap. Well, you can actually see the gap on the left-hand side of your screen. So we'll have to see how that goes. As if there's only been around 15 minutes of racing, and you wouldn't believe it. I feel like I've been talking for hours already, but yeah, lots of action. And even more coming from the Jacob Marnik area of this circuit, as the Porsches are side by side once again in this race. And Diaz, a little bit of contact with Marnik. And around Parabolica, they will go. Marnik behind Diaz. Christoph has managed to get away, but there's George Cogger in the background. So once again, Marnik has found himself losing more time by fighting other drivers. By probably no fault of his own, really. He's just trying to stay in this race, and yeah, we'll have to see how that goes for them, and we'll have to see if the BMW can do anything against the two Porsches, and if Jacob Marnik can even keep up with Mitchell. That'll be another question at the moment. But looking ahead then, the gap has already significantly come down. It was around 6.5 seconds, and it's gone back up to 7 seconds. I'm pretty sure the gap is lying to me. Again, this control panel is a little bit buggy at times, but we're making the best of it at the moment. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the lap times are like. We'll have to keep an eye on the lap times. But looking down the grid, Daniel Hearn finds himself behind Mike at the moment, the number 5 Porsche. And obviously Daniel will be looking for P12 here, obviously overall and both in class. And just ahead of them is Barris in the BMW. So another through-a car fight. I did say we weren't short for action at Monza, and I certainly was not wrong. Lots of action. There's a Ferrari, there's a Porsche, and there's a BMW, and a GT3 car just ahead of them. So obviously the more the merrier, as they like to say. And it's actually P1 in class for them GT3s. So that's still number 54, so starting on pole position and is still currently leading by around 6.2 seconds to the rest of the LMGT's cars at the moment. Daniel lost a little bit of time lapping the Ferrari, but has made up for it already into this chicane. And it's a big slide from Daniel, but we'll have to see how he gets on. And once again, when we cut to Jacob Marnik, still chasing Diaz down. They've pulled away a little bit from George Cogger as he got a little bit of action with the gravel. But yeah, we'll have to see. 100 minutes is quite a long time for both, well, for the hypercars. and the LMGT3s, because they probably can't go as much on the fuel. They'll be going for around 60 minutes. So I'd expect another 40 minutes of racing from these guys before they come in for their stop. And then it'll be to the end. And obviously, you've got to watch out on the virtual energy as well. If you don't follow WEC or don't know about virtual energy at all, it's basically a fuel-like substance. It does go down like fuel does. It's calculated per lap. And if you run out of that, you can be given a drive-through to disqualifications by the game. So we'll have to see how the drivers manage that and take them to their strategy. Obviously, 100 minutes for a GT3 car is quite long as well, but they'll be better on the fuel usage, but they still have the virtual energy feature like the hypercars do. So they'll have to come in and refill that too. Obviously, virtual energy adds no extra time to your pit stop, but you do have to come in and fill it up like you would fuel. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the strategy is for both classes. As obviously, strategy will be completely different if you're an MGT3 at the moment. So, be interesting to see how that all plays out at the moment, and we'll see. But looking down into that LMGT3 class, we do obviously have Timio, who's currently following Marco, and we just saw Marco a minute ago getting past or trying to chase down Jacob Woolney. The gap between them two is 1.5 seconds, but the gap between Timio and Marco is 0.5 of a second. So we'll watch this for a little bit and see what's going on. They're looking pretty consistent, all of them at the moment, staying pretty close. Not as much action as the hypercars, as I'm sure these guys are a little bit scared to see these hypercars flying past their wing mirrors, like side by side. And speaking of, there's their centre in the background. But yeah, there's a little bit of debris actually on the circuit there. So the driver's got to watch out for that. Otherwise, you'll be looking for a puncture. And speaking of, that is the rear wing of the BMW of, I believe, that is... Yeah, it's Carlo. Carlo has lost his rear wing, and that is what the debris was in the middle of the circuit. It looks like he's got a puncture as well. That's not really ideal at all. He's sliding. He's got to try and make his way as clear as possible. Big late moment for one of the GT3s off into the gravel. Carlos has to cut the gravel. It's probably the safest option at the moment. But yeah, he's going to try and limp this back to the pit lane, sliding everywhere. It looks like he's got a puncture as well, which is not ideal at all. He's going to try and be as safe as possible. While trying not to avoid. There is Alex, the man currently on first, lapping the first hypercar of the session. And wow, I mean, I've never seen a hypercar look like this all too much. Maybe it's the new BMW features, the M Sport package. I don't know, but he's definitely not looking like a healthy BMW at the moment. And he's going to try and make way for these drivers here. He's doing his absolute best. It's not really what Carlo wanted at his home race in the BMW, but he does try and limp it back to the pit lane as much as he can, and fair play for him doing it in a safe manner. But meanwhile then, towards in other news, we're still watching Timio and Marco battle it out for P4 in class. On board then with Timio, who's looking like got a great exit against Marco. Marco does defend it to the inside. It's McLaren versus Ferrari, and this could be a very interesting battle. Interesting to see how the slipstreaming works with the GT3s. It doesn't look obviously as powerful as the hypercars. Obviously the hypercars have a massive aero package compared to the GT3s, but Timio looking much quicker in these corners than Marco is. So Timio's just got to try and line up the right move. At the moment, Marco defending the inside quite heavily, forces Timio to the outside, and we'll watch this on a trackside point of view. Is Timio going to go around all the way around the outside, and McLaren should stay planted if he tries. He does, and it's going to all be about the understeer and the oversteer. Timio tucks in, and will look for the better exit into turn 1. But they've got to be careful because there is Damien just behind them. And if they don't want to be battling for too long, otherwise they might be losing positions like we saw Jacob Marnik earlier. Obviously started so high in this race and then dropped down. Meanwhile then, that's Jacob Woolney, who seems to be struggling a little bit as Timio getting pushed out of the corner by Damien as he cuts the curb. So, lots of action seems to be happening at the moment, and this is getting quite exciting indeed. Side by side, Damien and Timio. This is going to be quite interesting. Into the chicane they'll go. If we can get a good camera angle of it, we can. Damien on the inside, a brilliant move, leaves just enough space for Timio. Brilliant racing between the Ferrari and the McLaren. Still side by side they go. They've got to give way to the leader though of the Hypercar class, that is Alex. And they do give way, and that does allow Damien to keep his position for now. And Marco chasing after Jacob Woolney, who seems to be on and off pace. He seems to be making some pace, making some time, and then seems to be dropping it in other places. So maybe some sectors are more confident for him than others. But at the moment, then we're watching Marco try and catch him. Obviously, Jacob is the first of the podium in the LMGT3 class at the moment, so I'm sure Marco will try and love to get on the podium in his home race, in a home car. I'm sure he'll absolutely love to. We'll have to see obviously how that goes, but obviously speaking of class leaders, then it is number 54, the Brazilian driver, and the Ferrari leading us away is currently in turn 1, leading by around 9 seconds at the moment, followed by Giuseppe and the McLaren coming towards turn 1 now. And then obviously Jacob Woolney and the rest. We will go to the multi-class tower data view, so you can then see the top 5 of each class, so you can keep an eye on those gaps as well. There's obviously lots of battling we've seen so far, and it's nice to see that. Well, like I said, it's only been such a short amount of time. It's been about 25 minutes now. And there's been non-stop action, and we've still got an hour and 15 to go, and strategy hasn't even played out yet, and that makes a race like this very interesting indeed. Obviously Marco's really close up to Jacob here now, and we'll try and make a pass. We'll go on board with Marco. That's not the camera angle I wanted, but it's the one we're going to get. We'll have to see. Blue flags are given to these guys. That means they've got traffic behind them. They do. That's Christoph flying by them in the hypercar. And you've got Diaz behind them as well. And Jacob Marnik, who's still a little bit off from his fellow Porsche driver. And they'll have to see how that goes. But we'll have to see how much that interferes with this battle between these two. The two Porsches flying by the GT3s. And Marnik looks like he might try and make for a move on Diaz. We'll have to keep an eye on both these battles at the same time. And we'll have to see how that all plays out. But Marco, a little bit of a mistake for Jacob though in Parabolica. It's going to allow Marco to get really close to the back of Jacob. That's not the camera angle I wanted. 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 And still not the camera angle I wanted. That's the one I wanted. And we can sort of see what is going on. You can see the Porsches up ahead, and there's George Cogar flying by. And I think Marco's going to try and make the most of this to try and surprise Jacob. Jacob doesn't seem to be at all phased, and Marco has to try again elsewhere. Unfortunately, so we'll have to see how that is for those guys, but we'll have to cut back to that later, because Jacob Marnik again has found himself behind his, teammate, his fellow Porsche driver, and they'll have to try and fight it out again for P4 overall and in class. So we'll have to see what can Jacob Marnik do. He's lost a lot of positions already. I'm sure he doesn't really want to lose any more. I don't know if I can see positions gained or lost. I think you can probably see it if we go back to the mixed view. There we go. And then I go, positions gained or lost. There you go. Berinda's showing us DNF on my screen. Yeah, Berinda's DNF. That's so strange. I didn't even see that. I don't know. I did not see that at all. That's really unfortunate. I know he's had there's a lot of bad luck racing on the Monza with us at the moment. Again, that's really unfortunate to see. I heard that happened 2 laps ago. I didn't even notice. My apologies. Yeah, I didn't even notice. Yeah, I'm really unfortunate because he was doing really well fighting against the likes of Jacob Marnick, Diaz, and Christoph. But it does obviously promote Christoph to P3 then. And we're trailing Alessandro and Alex at the moment. Alessandro looks like he's lost more ground to Alex. The gap's now 10 seconds. It was 7 after his mistake. So we could be seeing, I don't know, and Alex come out of nowhere and well, probably wipe the smirk off Alessandro's face after such a good quali. And Alex looks likely to get the best strategy out of this, but you can see some marks to the front of that bumper on his hypercar. So he's also been involved in a little bit of contact at some point. So damage will be a big factor out of this and how they approach it. You can see how many LMGT3s there are for Alex to fly by. He's just going to hug the white line and hope for the best. That's Timio as well. Timio's dropped down big time as well, but after he was fighting Marco Guzzo, and that looks like there's contact behind between the GT3s. Yeah, that was B and W. I'm not sure who that was, but again, really unfortunate. It's kind of sad I can hear the contact before I even see it, but that's just the way it is sometimes, I suppose. But yeah, wow. The gap then does seem not to be getting smaller. And the gap between Alessandro and Christoph is 18 seconds. So it's already quite a big gap. Berinda's there. No, I'm being heavily confused by the control panel right now. It's saying he's DNF'd, but then he's becoming DNF'd. Not particularly sure what's going on. This control panel a little bit buggy, but like I said, we'll have to roll with it as we come towards the 1 hour mark. Then 1 hour 9 to go, and in about 20 minutes or so, or 20-30 minutes, we should start to see the first pit stops, the actual pit stops of strategy being made. Also, we'll have to see how that goes for them at the moment, but yeah, we'll see. But looking down the order then, Powell, we saw, made an early stop for damage on lap 1. He's currently in P11, trying to make his recovery drive at the moment. And at the moment, he seems to be doing all right at the moment. So we'll have to see what he can do. At the moment, he's like I said, he's chasing after Mike at the moment in the Porsche, and we'll see. At the moment, 8/10 is the gap, and at the top as well, Diaz has found himself within a second of Christoph. So again, we could see another 3-way battle as Powell makes a massive lock-up into the chicane. And yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. Elsewhere on the racetrack, we also got Spike Moore, who's chasing after Jarvis, the 2 British drivers in the BMWs at the moment, and yeah, doing pretty well at the moment, chasing for P12 in class, and their gap around 7/10 now, and they'll be looking to try and make some moves. That's Patrick in the hypercar trying to make his way past these cars. That's more blocking Patrick, but the looks of it, I don't know what was going on there, but either way, I did get past more, so I'll have to see what's going on there. I'm not particularly sure what was happening there, but yeah, we'll have to see. Meanwhile, we'll go back on board with Powell. Currently, again, P11, like I said. 5/10 is the gap to Mayak, and then they've just got Daniel. Daniel just ahead of them, who's currently lapping those GT3s that we just saw. And you can see one of the Porsches made the dive for it, and they're being held up massively into the turn 1. And not much they can really do about that, can the GT3s? In there, not a lot they can do, unfortunately. And yeah, well, either way, getting underway pretty well, and we'll have to see how this all plays out. You see Daniel Hearn just in the background. They get around 2 seconds, so they've got a little bit more pace to find to catch up to the rest of this grid. At the moment, we've only had 4 DNFs in this race. That means we've got 32 cars still left at the moment. 15 of which being LMGT3s and 17 being hypercars. So, yeah, speaking of P17 in the hypercar class, Carlo has come in, and BMW well, removed the M Sport package to his BMW and stuck this weird bench-looking thing on the back of his car. And not sure what was going on there in the BMW garage, but it looks like a fix for something. And they've locked up, and well, Carlo lives another day, but he has got a big gap. He's currently, currently actually fighting some of the MGT3s for position. For example, he's going to fight Marco Guzzo. This is for position, that overtake. You've just seen that. That was for position. And he's got Damien, Jacob, Giuseppe, and also car 54 to go to clear his way of the LMGT3s. And at the moment, he's got around 20... Well, I could probably see. No, I can't. Again, the control panel not very helpful in this situation. But he's got around 40 to 50 seconds to catch up to the next hypercar. So he's got to try his absolute best to catch up. But Jacob Marnick has dropped off a little bit, as Diaz probably made a mistake, because Lima is on the back of him for P14. So again, not sure what happened. I wish there was a replay system, and I wish it told me stuff like this with a yellow flag icon, because I cannot see anything otherwise. So sorry about that, but Diaz has seemed to lost position, and well, found himself under pressure from Pedro. At the moment, it seems to be finding his feet again and pulling away. At the moment, then we'll see how it is. Looking up the grid, like I said, Jacob Marnick no longer in the battle with his fellow Porsche teammate. He's got 4 seconds to Christoph, and yeah. The gap at the top then for Alex has remained around 10 seconds. He stayed pretty consistent. It was a 35.4 as his best lap. Again, I can't see last lap because I don't know. I wish I could. Alessandra's best lap was a 35.5. So Alex at this stage a little bit quicker. And we'll have to see. That's Pedro into the pit lane. As you saw there, we're just rolling up then on 1 hour to go. That means we've had 40 minutes of racing already, and we've only got 16 minutes more. Like I said, we should expect pit stops Well, I'd imagine the pit window would have opened for these guys between about now and in around 20-30 minutes will be when it ends. We'll have to really see how these guys have been managing their fuel and their tyres, really. And, of course, their virtual energy as well. We'll have to see how that all plays out, of course. But and we'll stay on board with Powell, who's currently behind Mayak, currently battling. And they've also got Daniel Merchant just ahead of them as well. So we've got another three-way car fight. That McLaren has probably pooed his pants. And so would have I, as Powell has to tuck in on his fellow Porsche driver. And oh my god, that Porsche, that McLaren, that is, I'd have been so scared. Both two Porsches coming alongside you, one on the left, one on the right, and I imagine that'd be quite scary, especially heading into the braking zone of turn 1. But I'm quickly going to leave you with Powell as I take a quick break for a drink. We'll stay on the track side cam. I think it's probably the best, so you don't miss any of the action. I'll be back in just a second, and hopefully we'll get this underway again. Alright, I am back, and Al still hasn't gotten past Mayak, and Mayak still hasn't got past Daniel at all. But this battle seems to haven't just stopped yet. So this is the battle currently for P7, and I imagine Powell especially will want to try and get a little bit further into that top 10 after losing out on lap 1 due to contacts at turn 1. And yeah, we'll have to see, but at the moment it's looking pretty close, and I would like to shout out the developers of the Monza Ultimate for the amazing camera angles, as all of them have been pretty good so far this race. It is a shame the onboard doesn't really work the way I want it to, but the actual camera angles themselves are very good. So yeah, big shout out to them especially. Of course, a big shout out to YUPLAY as well. Obviously, you can get your games at a much cheaper price, Le Mans Ultimate included, and ACC as well. That's Paul Steiner coming into the pit lane, and like I said, this strategy would have probably opened up just 2 minutes ago, about a lap ago, and he's the first one to react on it. Marnik also in the pit lane, and a few others joining. But yes, as I was saying about YUPLAY, we'll go stay on board with Powell as he takes his pit stop. We'll get a back view of Jacob Marnik as well. But yeah, YUPLAY obviously is a website. You can go to YUPLAY, and you can get your games at a much discounted rate, of course. And also you can support ACM by doing so as well, if you wish. You can see Jacob Marnik leaving the pit lane, and so has Powell. Has actually jumped Jacob Marnik in the pit lane, so Marnik stopping a lot longer than Powell did. So interesting to see how that played out, but yeah, obviously on YUPLAY, you don't have to just get the racing games, you can get any game you like. So just head over to YUPLAY, and you can see what they got on offer, of course. But also, obviously this race powered by Coach Dave Delta as well. Great guys over there. So they support Le Mans Ultimate for setups. You can obviously get your setups over there, or for any sim title really. That'd be iRacing ACC, but obviously in our case, in ACM we do iRacing ACC, Le Mans Ultimate, and AMS2. So you can obviously check them out as well for high quality setups for your races, and obviously help you do strategies like Power Steiner just did, and absolutely dazzle Jacob Marnick out of the pit lane. And that's for sure. But we'll have to see what Marnick was doing. I don't know if he made a mistake previously and dropped down, or he had some serious damage to fix. Either way, it is looking like a very clean Porsche, and here we're looking to try and fight back from P11 at the moment. But the leader of this race then is Daniel Merchant, who's just lost it back to Alex. Alex just pitted as well, and we'll have to keep an eye on where what the gap will be as Christoph comes by, as Christoph's also in the pit as well. There's Alessandro. I don't know if Alessandro is pitted or not, but he's out of the pit line. And we can see the number of stops actually. And we can see, yes, Alessandro has stopped. The undercut has worked for Alessandro. And that means Alessandro back in this fight. He somehow gained more than 10 seconds on the undercut to Alex. So it's a great strategy call for Alessandro, and he does take the lead. Take back the lead of this race from Alex, but we'll have to see how long that lasts. We know Alex had a little bit more pace than Alessandro did, but we'll have to see how this plays out. There's a little bit of rear quarter damage on the near side. You can see it just there in that camera angle light. A little bit of damage on that rear quarter. So I'd imagine Alessandro did not box for any damage he had previously, and that could be why he got such a good undercut. We'll have to see if that comes into play at all in the final 55 minutes of this race. Still got a long way to go for some of these drivers. So I wouldn't expect another pit stop, or if you do, it would be at the very end of this race at least. So we'll have to see obviously how it all pans out. Alessandro then taking the lead of this race back, and again another great camera angle from Le Mans Ultimate. Yeah, so the big loser out of all this at the moment is Jacob Marnick. We were talking about how he had a great recovery. He came back, unfortunately lost positions to battling, and not much he could do about it. And out of the pit lane, not the best strategy. And, he's lost more positions, and he's back in P6, where he's been fighting from for so long. So yeah, I don't know, it's quite unfortunate indeed, but yeah, we'll have to see how it all comes into play in the next couple laps indeed. As we know, Marnick has got some pace, and I think he's got a fully repaired Porsche as well, so we'll have to see what his pace is like as we go on. But at the top then, Christoph has found himself behind Mitchell Diaz, and again this battle does continue again without Jacob Marnick, and well, without taking the racing line for Christoph, as he finds himself in the gravel a little bit, and as he chases after Diaz. I think yeah, Christoph has also hasn't repaired some of his damage. You can still see some of the scratches on his front bumper when he got well, the Helm GT3 rejoined right in front of him. Yeah, I'll have to see how that is. Actually, Mitchell Diaz currently holding P3 in class. I don't know if he has stopped. I think he has. I will just double check that. He has stopped. So this isn't just for anything. It is for position. And Christoph loses a little bit of time behind Griffiths in the BMW GT3. But we'll have to see how this all pans out. Of course, he lost around 2 seconds because of that. It's quite crazy. Again, it's all about how you can manage traffic in these multi-class races. It's not just about, you know, brake, accelerate, steer. It is take some serious strategy as well. So we'll have to see how that comes into play a little bit later on as well. But Daniel Merchant finds himself in the battle of the Daniels. It is Daniel Hearn in P10, Daniel Krebs in P11, and Daniel Merchant in P12. And at the moment, Daniel Merchant chasing after his fellow Daniel of Krebs for P11. It is the Peugeot versus the Porsche and this will be really interesting to see how it all comes out. Obviously, Daniel driving for his home manufacturer, and so is Daniel Merchant as well, driving for his home manufacturer. So we'll have to see. Obviously, that Peugeot's door's probably going to fall off in about 10 laps time, but that Porsche, we'll have to see how he gets on. But it's probably leaking oil somewhere, and well, either way, we'll have to see how it all gets on for these two. Daniel Merchant losing a little bit of time out of that turn 1 and 2 segment to Daniel Krebs, so we'll have to see how they get on. But we'll cut back to the LMGT3 class and see how they're getting on. The closest battle at the moment is Noah, someone we haven't really spoke about at all this race, who's chasing after class leader car 54. You can see him just ahead. So we'll have to see what's happened there to the class leader, but he's dropped massively, and it's currently Timio that leads the class, and that is quite impressive. Great strategy from Timio, and Giuseppe in second place, making his way past Ghazali, lapping Ghazali actually. And Giuseppe might actually try and lap car 54, who's just ahead of him on the track. You can see him just there. Obviously, that Ferrari just ahead was on pole position, led pretty much every lap until the pit stops, and now the turns have indeed tabled, as I like to say. I did not do that as a mistake, I did do that on purpose. But Giuseppe then might look to try and lap car 54, which would be devastating for the Ferrari, but we'll have to see. It's still a little bit far away at the moment, so we'll have to see how he gets on. But Jacob Wolney holds on to P3 in class, followed by Marco Guzzo, who finds himself 25 seconds behind Jacob. So they were literally neck and neck for the pit stops. I think now they're separated by 25 seconds. So again, quite impressive, but we'll have to see how it all gets on. But we'll see. But for now, we'll get the onboard of who do I want the onboard of? I think I want the onboard of Timio. We'll see what it's like being in a McLaren, leading the class. We'll get up the on-board driver box, and we'll take off the tower, and then we'll get up the onboard HUD. And yeah, you can see from here his throttle inputs on the right, his braking inputs on the right, his energy usage on the right as well. But obviously it doesn't use any energy, so you can see the RPMs on the left as well. But you can see he's getting blue flagged at the moment. But I will leave you with this as I take a quick break for a drink. Right, I am back, and we'll go on board with Daniel, who is currently, again, still chasing his fellow Daniel. We might get a nice camera angle off the Peugeot. We might see its door fall off, and we might see the oil leakage of the Porsche just ahead as well. But we'll see. We get the better camera angle like this. Anyway, you can see the onboard HUD of him chasing down his fellow Daniel at the moment. So we'll have to see what can he do as he come around the exit of Parabolica. He's going to get a great slipstream on Krebs, but Krebs is going to get a good slipstream on the Ferrari just ahead of him, and we'll have to see how it all plays out really, because also they've been behind each other for quite a bit, and well, someone needs to make a move soon, and the GT3 just ahead of them might make a good opportunity as the Peugeot driver does get a much better exit than Daniel does. Will quickly swap back to the tower. As you see, what's just happened there is Daniel Merchant has just gone right around the outside of Daniel Krebs as he gets stuck behind the LM GT3s. So yeah, you can not sure. That's quite crazy what's just happened there, but it is, like I said, it is what happens when GT3 cars are involved. It does make things a little bit more tricky, and you can have a little bit more patience and strategy in the way you overtake them and lap them. But Krebs has made no time in making the time back, because he's already on the back of the Peugeot driver, and we'll be looking to try and make a move into Parabolica, or potentially towards turn 1. We'll have to see, can we get a better camera angle, and we can see that Daniel Krebs does look at the inside. He doesn't go for it though. Daniel Merchant does leave him the room, but I think Daniel Krebs is going to get a much better exit in that Porsche than what Merchant just did. We'll go on board with Krebs. This is a good camera angle for once, thank you very much, devs. And we can see what will Krebs do into turn 1. Does he fake the move? Does he go for the move? It looks like he's going for it. He's going for it. Up the inside he goes. Has to cut the chicane though. He'll have to lose time to that to not get to avoid a penalty, and that will cost him the position back to Merchant. So again, all the action remains on track, and again, more battling continues. A little bit more of information for you. Jacob Marnick has closed the gap to Powell. The gap is now 1.8 seconds. I'm sure you can see on the left hand side of your screen, but you are watching 2 leader, so I will quickly change that to next, and you can see to the next driver the interval and what the gap is. See at the top then, it's only around 4.7 seconds between the top 2, but Alessandro still getting the better of Alex in the pits. So yeah, great for them. We're still watching then these two, the two Daniels, battle it out for P11, and we'll have to see how they get on. But as I said, they've got 44 minutes to go then until this end of the race. And well, you can see lapping up MGT3. I mean, Krebs is going to get head up a little bit of wash. Probably doesn't help his exit, but regardless, probably made the best out of that he could have. And might even got a slingshot from Moore, potentially, as he seems to be absolutely rapidly coming down that straight. And again, putting pressure on Daniel. Well, I keep saying Daniel, but the other Daniel, lock up from Krebs. And yeah, that is not ideal, especially on a new set of tyres. Locking up is just going to make it, well, your tyres at the end much worse, especially when there's still 44 minutes to go. Daniel then continuing on, well, I keep saying Daniel, the Porsche continuing on to chase after the Peugeot, and looks like Daniel Krebs has managed to pick up the pace, maybe more confident behind than he was ahead. So we'll have to see what it's like on the onboard. Okay, it's not the onboard I want. Okay, not the onboard I want. Still not the onboard I want. Not the onboard I want. Not the onboard I want. There we go. And yeah, it's little things like that at the control panel, which are not correct, because you can click the trackside one multiple times and it'll switch, but I have to switch between trackside and onboard to make the onboard change. So it's a shame, but we get to see now what is Krebs going to do into Parabolica. Is he going to put pressure on? No, he lifts off, and we'll have to see. There's a McLaren MGT3 up ahead. We'll have to see, but slowed down the Porsche. It's going to allow the Porsche up the... Sorry, slow down the Peugeot. Going to allow the Porsche alongside and ahead before turn 1. But the Peugeot might get the slipstream on the Porsche, but he has just split to overtake Jacob Woolney. He's still in P3 in that BMW, by the way, in the MG3 class, so big shout out to him, and he's actually chasing after the McLaren just ahead, so good for him. But Daniel Merchant now is now on the chase, so again it's changed things quite a bit, and we'll actually swap up the battle to this time watching Jacob Marnick, who has again returned on our screens, chasing after Powell. This is what we wanted to see at the start of the race. This is what we're going to get later on in the race, but for P5. This is the top 5 for Jacob Marnick, and well, we'll have to see how he approaches this at all. We know Powell got the better of him in the pit stop, but we know Jacob, well, fully repaired his car and seems to be much quicker on the pace than he was beforehand, and will now get a fantastic slipstream all the way down the start finish in towards turn 1, deploying all of that energy and trying to make the best move he can. It's the two Polish drivers then fighting each other in the Porsche. Jacob Marnick's a big sausage curb there. It's not really ideal at all, but the battle will continue. And again, this is for P5. Very similar on the best lap times. So overall, at their maximum peak pace, these guys are quite similar. So this could be quite an interesting battle for watch, and that's for sure. But meanwhile, at the top, Alessandro has extended his lead on Alex by around 1 second. But Jacob Marnick going to get blocked by the Ferrari. Tries to minimize that, and he has done pretty well. But yeah, we'll have to see how it all plays out. We'll see. Powell making a move on MGT3s. And Jacob Marnick's going to try to follow him into a Ascari. This was bad the last time he tried it, but he's going to try it again. And it does work out for him in a much better situation, but he still has lost ground to the fellow Porsche driver. So he's got to find a little bit more time to make his way back up and hope Powell gets stopped. But there's two BMWs side by side in the background, and that is something I want to see. It is Declan and Keith Jarvis. Two BMW drivers. It's blue versus red, and we'll have to see how that goes. Griffiths is tucking in behind Jarvis, who will pull out now towards the inside to try and get alongside into turn 1. They'll go. We'll get a better trackside view. There we go. Still on the inside is Declan. Keith on the outside. Declan cuts chicane and unintentionally does block Jarvis from getting the better exit. So well played, but in the meaning of all this, they have got to give way for the Ferrari behind. That's Damien in the Ferrari, and he does give way. But again, this could be another battle to unfold, which should be quite interesting. Vladimir is leaving the pit lane now, so a little bit of a late stop. We'll have to see what was that for, but probably for damage of some sort. In other news, there was our race leader. The number 54 is now up into P9 after overtaking a couple of cars. Still heavily damaged front there, so maybe understanding why or what happened. But P9, 15.5 seconds is the gap to Daniel Owls, who is the next driver for him to overtake. He has probably got a pace advantage on Daniel. So there's a lot of Daniels in this race. There's 2 Daniels just in the LMGT3 class, and there's 3 Daniels in the Hyper class. It's Daniel, lots of Daniels, but either way, we've still got making around 15 seconds. To Daniel is now 14.3, so yeah, there's definitely a very clear pace advantage for our pole sitter in the LMGT3 class. And if he can try and dig himself deeper in the next 38 minutes of this race into the top 10, we'll have to see. But we'll cut back then to Jacob Marnick, who's trying to get past Powell, but in the process lapping more LMGT3s, which is not really helping his chances at all. Big lockup though for Powell, massive lockup. Well, I've seen him do that before in the gravel. It's going to allow Jacob Marnick all over the back of him, and might even looking for a move into the first Lesmo. He does, and again, fantastic initiative from Jacob Marnick just to try and well, try and do that as quickly as possible. So fair play, but now it's Powell after a massive lockup. I have seen him do that before. I saw him do it in the Le Mans race and the 2.4 hour, and I saw him do it earlier in this race, and well, now another lockup. So maybe breaking into the weak point for Powell, and he might have to work on it. But for now, he's still chasing after Jacob Marnick. I'll see how he overcomes that. But the biggest story, though, is the fact that Alex has caught up to Alessandro. The gap is now 1.4 seconds. I'd imagine you can see all the GT3s in the background. Alessandro's probably got caught with half the GT3s and has allowed Alex to push and catch up. So the battle for P1 is still on, and well, it's getting closer and closer. But I'm starting to think maybe Alessandro is getting a little bit desperate to dive into the second Lesmo. And, well, you can see how close they are now. The gap is 0.6 of a second for the lead of this race. Again, there's 36 minutes to go. And we've gone way past the halfway mark now. But entering into the final stage of this race, I'm not sure if there'll be another pit stop on the cards for these hypercars. There shouldn't be for the LMGT3s, but the hypercars might need to make another stop with around 15 minutes to go. We'll have to see. But you can see Alex is much more confident on the brakes than Alessandro is. So yeah, maybe there was a pace difference after all, or Alessandro has had some damage to his car, and there's not much he can do about it. We'll have to see, because Alex might look for a move into turn 1. For the lead of this race. What can Alessandro do to try and defend it? He sticks to the outside, and both of them very tidy into turn 1 and 2. And Alex might be looking for a move then into the second chicane of the circuit. They've got an LMGT3 just ahead of them. They will both pass it before the chicane, but it does compromise Alex's chances of a move. You can see Alessandro not too bothered about defending the inside. He's just trying to keep his line at the moment and try and make Alex work for it, and try force him into making the overtake. So it's going to be some great racing between these two. A Lamborghini versus a Toyota. We'll have to see, can we get a good onboard from Alessandro's rear wing? It's the one time I want this camera angle. There we go. Very loud engine noises, but you can see which way is the Toyota going to go. He's going to go to the outside. Alessandro is going to cover off the inside, covers him off well. Side by side around Ascari they'll go. A little bit of contact, and it does mean the Toyota has to back out of it. A little bit of wheel rubbing, nothing major serious. Great racing between these two. A little bit of wheel banging, but again, nothing at all to be concerned about. And Alex will have to try again at some point. Again, he's got 34 minutes to hold on to this, does Alessandro. He's got to try a little bit harder than that, does Alex, if he wants to try and get past into P1. And at the moment, Alessandro has got a 1.1 second gap. For how much longer will that last? We know how confident Alex is on the brakes compared to Alessandro at the moment. So again, we'll have to see how it all plays out. Obviously, in other news, Jacob Marnick has pretty much pulled away now from Powell. The gap is around 2 seconds between those two. So they have pulled away successfully. Patrick has unfortunately DNF'd as well. I've just seen that come up on the control panel. It's quite unfortunate, and that happened 3 laps ago. But let's see. Powell's in the pit stop again. This is his 3rd pit stop of the race. I'm not sure what's going on. Obviously, unless he's stopping for his final stop of this race, he's doing it early again, trying the undercut once more. It did work last time, but obviously Marnick did catch him. But we'll have to see what the strategy is from Powell at this stage of this race. But we'll have to keep our eyes on the top of this field against Alex versus Alessandro for P1 at the moment. So we'll have to see as they all pass the LMGT3s. Is Alex going to try and get past into Parabolica? I think he just did. Yes, he did. So Again, these two trying their absolute hardest to try and catch up. We'll go on board with Alex. I haven't been on board with the Toyota yet. There we go. You can see exactly what it looks like to overtake these guys at high speed, and you can see Alessandro, the green Lamborghini just up ahead. We'll get the relevant thing up so you can see exactly what it's going to look like for these two. You can see on his steering wheel as well. Well, hopefully we can see sort of any information. We can't see last or this, but we can see his best lap. That's pretty much all we're going to get, unfortunately. But at least here you can see his inputs and sort of judge how fast he's going to try and catch Alessandro. Again, I'm going to get another glass of water and I'll be back very shortly. Alright, I am back, and I apologise. We can see the battle happening now. It's getting very, very close between these two drivers, swapping and making quite highly defensive moves. Was Alessandro into Ascari, and we're going to see now what is Alex going to do as he comes around Parabolica. And we'll have to see. Alessandro is pitting, so Alex won't get the satisfaction of overtaking Alessandro, but Alessandro will try and get the undercut. But this will mean for Alex, he is a make or break lap. He has to try and make it his absolute best one, otherwise he will be struggling and will lose the time to Alessandro. We'll have to keep an eye on where Powell comes out in consideration to Jacob Marnick as well. Mitchell Diaz also comes in to the pit lane. We haven't heard from him in a while, but he was in P3 before pitting, so we'll have to see how he gets on. Meanwhile, then Christoph stays out, Jacob Marnick stays out, and I'd imagine we'll have to see what about the other guys as they come through. But we're watching Alex then. Like I said, this will be a make or break lag for him. Does he come in this lap or does he extend? But if he extends, he's got to really push for those laps he does choose to extend for. Otherwise, he will lose time to Alessandro. Alessandro is out of the pit lane now and ahead of Mitchell Diaz. You can see him in turn 2 there, and you see Alex coming into Parabolica. So we'll have to see what Alex decides to do. Does he come in now or does he wait a little bit longer? Obviously, it all depends on fuel and your virtual energy and your tyres. But we'll have to see. I think he is going to stay out. He does stay out. So it is all or nothing now for Alex. He has to continue pushing. 100% of the time. Otherwise, he will lose to the undercut that Alessandro is doing. Mitchell Diaz is DNF'd. Mitchell Diaz has DNF'd. I'm not sure what happened. He just came out of the pit lane. So that's really unfortunate. He was sitting in P3. So that's super unfortunate, but it does promote, I think, Jacob Marnick to an automatic podium place, as does Powell as well. So we'll have to see how that all comes into play. But in other news, Jacob Olney is the current LMGT3 race leader. Timio is down in P9 in class, which is not really ideal. Where he was leading after a while and is now behind after the pole position sitter. And obviously these guys will be now making their pit stops as well by the looks of it. Giuseppe still in P2 for the NGT3s, so he's been P2 this entire race pretty much. And well, I mean, that's good for him, but I'm sure he would like to be in P1 at some point. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Marnick then looking to push as well. Is also going to be make or break for him, and see what he can do. We'll try and keep you updated on the gap between Alessandro and Alex. The gap is around 70 seconds. So yeah, you can sort of guess by that. Well, you can sort of see that. In other news, we'll see the gap to next, so you can see what the difference is between absolutely everyone. And we'll also bring up the multi-class, so you see the top 5 in each class, so you can see what is going on and what I'm talking about. As I said, Warney currently in P1, Giuseppe in P2, and then Marco Guzzo in P3 for the MGT3s. And obviously we're focusing at the moment on the hyperclass and the pit stops and the strategy in the last 25 minutes of this race. Is starting to dry up a little bit, this race, but at the moment seems to be doing alright. There's some battles here and there, and also we've still got the battle for the lead of this race, so we'll have to see how that all turns out. But I think Alex is going quick because he's gaining time on Alessandro at the moment, and well, I suppose for him that is quite good indeed. But we'll have to see, because if he messes up his pit entry, all that effort he's just put in on these laps, all going to be for nothing. But how long does Alex want to extend for? Like I said, I was expecting them to pit around with 15 minutes left. That's about 10 minutes time. But these guys look to be doing a little bit longer. And you see Alessandro has to overtake about a train of LMGT3s. And there's like 3 or 4 of them there. And, well, yeah, we'll have to see. But the gap is increasing to Alessandro. And Alessandro has clean air as well. For reference. Oh no, he doesn't. My apologies. He's got LMGT right ahead of him. The camera angles looked like he had clean air, but he does now. So it's all or nothing for Alessandro as well. Meanwhile, looking up and down the grid, Powell finds himself behind Thomas Stanek, someone we haven't seen at all this race, or haven't spoken about at all this race. He's currently fighting with Powell for P10, so this is for a top 10 position in the hypercar class at the moment. And we'll see what does the Lamborghini decide to do. Does he let Powell pass because he's faster, or does he try and fight it? We'll have to find out, but at the moment it's looking like Tom Stanek will like to fight this, as he's not, well, not easily giving way to Powell. Of course, he doesn't have to. He's more than welcome to stick to the racing line. And well, we have to see at the moment that Tom Stanek holding on to P10, and well, if he's not careful, I'm sure Powell will probably try and take that in a matter of seconds at the moment. But it's looking pretty good. Switchback for Powell. That's a brilliant switchback out of Ascari, and it is going to allow him to get alongside, but he isn't got enough straight line to make the overtake on the Lamborghini driver. So Powell will have to look elsewhere. So into Parabolica they will go, and Powell will be trying to focus on the better exit. He gets such a good exit. They're going to be side by side. before they even get to the start-finish straight. So if that's a good exit, I don't know what else is, but yeah, they're still side by side. Then yeah, they'll come towards turn 1 now, and Powell, I mean, we're trying to send one up the inside, but no, Thomas Stanek blocks the middle, and another massive lockup for Powell. To be fair on him, I don't think that one was much of his fault. I don't know. It looks like Tom did quite a late move into the middle of the track, but I think it was on the lines of fair. So yeah, either way, I'd have also locked up in the middle. Not much you can really do, and not much where you can really go. But these two find themselves in a massive LMGT3 sandwich at the moment, and trying to make their way past as quickly and as cleanly as possible, while staying, of course, head to toe into the second Lesmo. Great exit for Powell though, as they're literally pushing the Lamborghini along. The Lamborghini has got the straight line speed, but with slipstream and energy deployed, not much can the Lamborghini do, but he's literally pushing them. There's contact, massive contact, massive squeeze from Thomas Stanek. He has to cut Ascari, and Powell has to try and take the road, but oh my god, there's a massive squeeze there, and a little bit of contact. It put Powell in the barrier while he was alongside, and yeah, maybe too much squeezing for Thomas there, and I think Thomas just paid the price for that one. But there's going to be quite a bit of damage to Powell's car. I mean, he got shoved into the barrier, maybe, you know, looking upwards of 200 kilometers an hour. So yeah, I mean, that's quite damaging for the car. But yeah, it looks to be all right on the outside, but how it is on the inside, I don't know. Thomas Stanek, yeah, instantly in the pit lane. I'd imagine so. I mean, he got basically the rebound of Powell bouncing off the barrier, and he got sent into the other side of the track. So yeah, I'd imagine there's also quite a bit of damage on his car as well. But yeah, a little bit more, again, a little bit feisty up in the hypercar class. Speaking of feisty, Timio has just found his way past Marco Guzzo, which I did not just see. So, well done to Timio as he tries to make his way back up the grid. He's currently in P6. Got a little bit of way to go to catch up to Daniel Clockars in P5. But we'll have to see how he gets on. 20 minutes remaining then. And Alessandro Grossi, 6/10 to George Cogger in the BMW. And, well, Alex still hasn't come into the pits yet, and neither is Jacob Marnick. But like I said, I was expecting the pit stops to be around 15 minutes left. So maybe I've just seen George Cogger disappear from my screen. I'm not sure what just happened to him. I'm clicked on George Cogger at the moment. He's currently invisible. Well, there you go, everyone. The first invisible cut, and he's reappeared like a magic trick. And in the process, he's lost a position. So he's definitely lagging. But either way, Alessandro makes another position. He's back up into the podium places, but he won't want just that. He'll want the win. He's currently got 40 seconds to Alex at the moment. Sorry, 40 seconds to Jacob Marnick, who's also got 34 seconds to Alex. So it's currently 72 seconds to Alex is the gap. So he needs Alex to box, otherwise he won't get his place back. But even if he does box, I think Alex has a 2-second advantage at the moment anyway, because obviously they were side by side pretty much when Alessandro came in. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's definitely quite interesting. See how this is. You can see Tom Stanek now leaving the pit lane after his contact with Powell. Well, yeah, we'll have to see, but yeah, we will see indeed. But at the moment, then, I wonder if this gap will ever come down, and if Alex decides to come into the pit lane. Like I said, I was expecting them to come in with 15 minutes left. It's currently 18 minutes left, so there's still definitely time for a late pit stop for the top two. But yeah, it's a matter of can they make the tyres and the virtual energy last and the fuel, because you can save fuel as much as you like, but you can't really save virtual energy. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the strategy is on that. Like I said, actually Daniel Merchant is in the pits now. He pits from P9, and he'll be probably losing a couple positions to that as well. So like I said, I'd imagine these pit stops will be start happening around now. I did expect them, and as I said that, Jacob Mike does find himself in the pit lane. Then he will lose a position to Alessandro, and that is guaranteed. But it's all about Alex now, and what the gap is to Alex. That's what matters the most at this stage, because the gap is 68 seconds. It was 70 when Alessandro left the pit lane. So at the moment, it looks like Alessandro has got advantage. So it looks like Alex lost some time on this lap. But again, I'm being well, messed around by the control panel quite a bit. It's a little bit glitchy. It says one thing, and then 1 second later it says the complete opposite. But at the moment, it is looking like Alessandro, they might probably come out exactly how they came in. So yeah, we'll have to see. And I imagine Alex will try and pit now, otherwise he's going to lose way too much time. And but we'll have to see what his decision will be. And it looks like he is not going to come in, so he's staying out even longer. I'd imagine this would have been the time to pit around now, otherwise he's going to lose more time. Unless he wants to clean air, because again, if he pits, he's going to find himself in that massive LMGT3 chain again. So maybe a little bit of strategy involved in this, and hoping Alessandro gets caught up in all of the LMGT3s. But at the moment, I'm watching this gap, it's hovering around 69.9 seconds. So this could be quite close if Alex does decide to pit this lap. Now, so you can see the gap in the top left of your screen. You can see the LMGT3 gap in the top left, and on the left of your left-hand side of your screen as well. But as this is mainly about the hyperclass at this stage, the overall of this race, I will go back to the mixed for a little bit, just so you can see the rough gap and see they've lapped. They didn't even lap Powell in P8 at the moment, so they've definitely put on some performance at this stage. But I have to keep an eye on what Alex is planning to do. He's at Ascari now, and this will be the next lap. So we're heading towards 15 minutes left. Like I said, this is around when I'd start to expect people to start pitting, around 15 to 10 minutes left. I was expecting a pit stop, but Jacob Marnick lapping a fellow LMGT3 and Alex lapping 2 LMGT3s in the process. Looks like he's staying out one more. No, he's not. He's coming in, and this will be make or break for Alex. Will he lose position for staying out of that one extra lap, or will Alessandro gain the position, will stay on board? Alex is now stopped. Alessandro is currently getting stuck behind the LMGT3, which is exactly not what he wants. You can see on the track map, probably on his HUD, Alex is stopped, and being stuck behind that LMGT3 has probably cost him more time than he wanted. But we'll have to see. He's at Ascari now. Alex is going. So Alessandro will not gain the position to Alex at all. Alex has probably done quite a short stop. He's gone longer than Alessandro did, so he's had to put in less fuel, less virtual energy, so we can go out now. You can see Alex is now leaving at the pit stop now. Alessandro is not even at Parabolic yet. So yeah, that is well, yeah, Alex has probably done a little bit of strategy play there. Tried to go as long as possible and then fill up as little as possible for the final 14 minutes. So fair enough. And that probably means he doesn't fix his damage as well. But in the process, he does keep a 16-second gap to Alessandro. So a quite comfortable margin, but nothing, absolutely crazy. But George Cogger and Mike then find themselves in the pit lane now as well. So this will promote Christoph into P3. A well-deserved P3 as well, I must add. But he has got the likes of Jacob Marnick again from the start of this race now to the end of this race. Jacob Marnick finds himself on the bumper of Christoph in the final 13 minutes of this race. So this will be the battle to watch, I guess. The battle for the last podium place. You see a lot of the hypercars currently boxing at the moment as well. And yeah, we'll have to see how that all goes for them. But Jacob Wolney still leading the LMGT3 class, has got a 13-second gap over Giuseppe, who's still in P2, unfortunately for him. And Damien finds himself in P3, so come out of nowhere, Damien has, and managed to secure the P3, so pretty good for him, as Timio and Marco Guzzo find themselves in P6 and P7, separated by 6 seconds. So they're a little bit way off, but we'll have to see how that all plays out. But this is what we want to watch. It's Christoph versus Jacob Marnik. A little bit rough around the edges is that LMGT3, as both of them have to pass them. So yeah, a little bit. I suppose that's probably been the biggest downside for some of these drivers in the hypercar class today. Has been trying to manage the traffic very well, but we'll have to see what is said. But at the moment, it is looking pretty good. And we'll go on board with Jacob Marnik as he tries to chase down Christoph in the last stage of this race. If I can please get the right on board. I never get it first time, but there we go. This is what we want. We also want this, and we want that as well. We'll probably get the driver information too. So yeah, you can see then exactly what Jacob Marnik is doing. That, yeah. We'll have to see how that all goes, but super unfortunate. You can see now all the information on your screen, the throttle inputs, the braking inputs, the speed he's going, the gear he's in, and the RPM he's at, and obviously the car he's driving. Fourth in class is Jacob Marnik at the moment, and he needs around 3 seconds to get to Christoph at the moment. He's definitely pushing. You can see he's working at the steering wheel, trying his absolute best to try and get that lap time down. 10 minutes to go, so it's all or nothing really for Jacob Marnik. He's been messed around quite a bit this race, and I would imagine he'll want at least the podium out of it. So he's going to try his absolute hardest to get it. The gap is around 2 seconds now. I think Christoph lost some time lapping these LMGT3s. So yeah, we'll have to see. On board with Jacob Marnik then on his lap, 1.7 seconds the gap. You can see Christoph in the blue Cadillac just there. We'll have to see what can Jacob do to try and close the gap to Christoph. 2 tenths down in the first chicane. Obviously that's on his best lap time. His best lap time is a 1:35.7. The best lap time of the race is a 1:35.3. So I mean, and that was set by Alessandro. So again, pretty good to stay within. I think if you stay within around 5 tenths of your best lap time on a race lap time throughout the race, it's definitely very good. So we'll have to see what Jacob does, but we'll switch back to trackside for the moment so we get a better view, and my ears stop bleeding from the engine sound of the Porsche. But either way, it is great to see. Again, still so many cars in this race. We have had a fair few DNFs at the moment, but we've still got 27 cars within this. But still, a lot of them maybe accidents or people just returning to the garage. Now, so we had a few that we're not too sure about. Brenda, Patrick as examples. So not too sure. And actually, car 54. Yeah, I think I said before. Yeah, car 54 retired as well. So yeah, super unfortunate. But again, very competitive racing in the Monza at the moment, which I was surprised about. When we started it as a series, we weren't too sure how it was going to go. It's done absolutely brilliantly. So it's good to see so many competitive drivers on track at the moment and racing, and to have the ability to stream as well is very good, because we're streaming the 2 hours of Spa on ACC on Twitch right now. At the same time, we're streaming the 100 minutes of Monza on Le Mans Ultimate as well. So it's the first time we've ever done or 2 races at once, and I think it's turned out pretty nicely for us. So it is all good to see. Obviously, like I said before, if you haven't, if you're new to ACM or anything, make sure you read the rulebook. And if you've got any questions, you can feel free to ask any staff member. We are a friendly bunch, so don't feel afraid to ask anything. And obviously, we can get you set up and racing very shortly. Obviously, Le Mans is super fun to race. Obviously, different types of racing. If you want something more fast and twitchy, then you go for the hypercar. If you want something more stable and maybe more competitive racing or closer racing, then you could go the MGT3s. Though for this race, for example, I'd say that that's been swapped. It's felt more like the hypers have had more action today than the GT3s normally do. But that's a good thing. It's not often we see a lot of these cars go side by side because how big they are. Yeah, it's definitely been great to watch. And again, we're watching Jacob Marnick try and chase down Christoph in the final 10 minutes. Around 6 minutes to go then the gap between Jacob and Christoph has been extended. So Jacob Marnick needs to find a little bit more time, but he has got GT3s to try and clear, which has probably been the bane of his existence this entire race. So it's probably well, I'm not sure what he really thinks of that, to be honest, but it's definitely been an interesting one to watch. So either way, like I said before, if you're new to ACM and you have any questions, so feel free to ask in the Discord. I'm sure anyone will try and help you out the best we can, and we'll try to get you racing. Also, like I said before, we've got many different series, obviously from ACC to Le Mans Ultimate, like you're watching now, to iRacing and AMS2 as well, and plenty more to come. I think we just opened the WRC series, which is starting soon. So yeah, there's plenty of racing to come. So different types of class of racing, so it should be something for everyone, whether you like this racing or not. And I imagine if you're watching the stream, you'll be quite interested in hypercars and GT cars. I'd imagine, but yeah, either way, make sure you join one of our races. We'll hopefully have big grids like this for the rest of the year. So yeah, we'll have to see. But 5 minutes left on the clock then, and well, the gaps between everyone are quite massive at the moment. But one thing that isn't is Daniel Owls is side by side with Noah as they're trying to get lapped by Marek in the Porsche. It's Ferrari versus McLaren versus Porsche, and the Porsche flies by, but the Ferrari and McLaren still side by side. This is the closest battle on the track at the moment. It's great to see the GT3s have their racing still side by side. They go down the start-finish straight. This is going to be quite close. You've got Daniel on the inside, Noah on the outside, and Daniel looks like he's going to try and make the most out of this inside move. He is way ahead of the McLaren by turn 2. It was a great move for Daniel up into P8 in the final 5 minutes of this race. I'm sure Noah will be trying absolute hardest to try and get that one back. He won't want to let it go too easily, but he's doing well. You can see flying by is Daniel Hearn in his lovely 499p Ferrari. Meanwhile then, lots of Daniels. There's so many Daniels, and that's really got me tripped up today, is the amount of Daniels. But you can see there Alex in the hypercar then. Continue on for his final couple laps of this race. My throat is begging for it to be over already. The amount of water and stuff I drunk, it's not helping at all. But it's definitely been a great race to stream, commentate, and watch. I heard there has little issues at the start of qualifying. I do apologise for that. I did not realise. But hopefully we'll get it all sorted out for the next race, so you don't miss quali. But hopefully it's still been quite an entertaining race nonetheless. So well, I think it has anyway. But we'll go on board them with Alex for the final couple of laps. We'll go one track side. We'll go one on board. And then I think he has... I think he's got like 2 laps. So we'll have to see We'll have to keep an eye on the gaps as well between all the other cars, but at the moment, we'll go on board with Alex, see what makes him the fastest, and have to see. But yeah, still trying to get used to this control panel. Like I said, it is a little bit glitchy at sometimes, so again, I do apologise for that, and the lack of information it does annoy me, because I would like to see some more detailed information, but hopefully the devs update it soon. We get a good amount of data, and we can having better streams. But yeah, either way then, we get to see Alex chase after Daniel Hearn in to lap him. This will be the next car for him to lap. The fact he's lapped, this many hypercars already is pretty crazy, but I'm not surprised. I mean, Alessandro and Alex have been going at it this entire race, and they've definitely been very good indeed. There's Jacob Wolny as well. He's just passed, obviously, current class leader for the MGT3s, so it's great to see all the changes in the race as well. So looks like both pole sitters won't be getting race wins here. So yeah, we'll have to see, but this is the final lap for Alex, and this is the final lap for everyone, his laps. That includes Jacob Wolny. It'll be his last lap too. And yeah, we'll have to see. But this is Alex's last lap. He's led. Obviously, didn't start on pole, but put the pressure on. Alessandro made a mistake, and he led for such a long while. And then Alessandro got the better of him in the pit stops. And then Alex did the exact same thing to him back, and got the better of Alessandro in the next set of pit stops, and has led since then. And obviously on the final lap now, has led since then a pretty good race. He's been very consistent. I've seen no mistakes from Alex at the moment. He's managed traffic pretty well as well, so it's definitely a well-deserved win for Alex. Fantastic race from the Polish driver. Of course, as well, Alessandro, don't count him out just yet. There's still plenty more races in this Mini Endurance Championship. We have got, I believe, yeah, we've got Spa next week. It's a 2-hour race. It's a night race. That's like next week. So next Thursday, make sure you join us there, and make sure you get yourself signed up, so we can have lots and lots of racing and lots of new racing. But for the final time then, Alex comes around Parabolica, and he will win. There's a backwards hypercar, but he will win the first round of the Mini Endurance Series Season 1 in Le Mans Ultimate. Fantastic win then for Alex. Great win, and it's done absolutely brilliantly. Alessandro in second. It's done a brilliant race as well. Fought very hard with Alex, but more importantly, Jacob Wolny will come across the line to win the Le Mans GT3 class, and has Alessandro across the line as well. So great win for Jacob as well. Very well deserved. Yeah, lots of racing. We'll have a look at the results in more detail, but yeah, those guys at the top, definitely well deserved wins for both classes. So yeah, congratulations to everyone on the podium, and yeah, we'll go through the session results now. We'll see them. We'll see the hyperclass results first, and then you can see what's going on. So yeah, you can see then Alex takes the win then. 61 laps completed, 3.2 seconds to Alessandro, followed by Jacob Marnik, who hadn't had the best race, followed by Christoph, and then Pau, and then George Cogger, Mayak, Daniel, Barris, and then the other Daniel of Daniel Krebs as well. Round out the top 10 for the hypercar class. And then for the where is it? The GT3 class. So we got Jacob Wolny taking the race win with 53 laps, followed by Giuseppe, led by 18 seconds, followed by Timio, Marco Guzzo, Raw Racing, and then Vladimir. The two Daniels, Noah and Damien, round out the top 10 as well. So it's been a definitely a fantastic race, and hopefully you can join us next week for the 2 hours of Spa, and hopefully we'll have a very good and successful Mini Endurance Season 1. It's definitely been a great turnout for this race, and hopefully it continues. Like I said, it is definitely very interesting. Also, we've got the 2.4 hours of Le Mans as well on the 16th of January in this series. So make sure if you at least turn up to one race, it's that one. You won't want to miss that one. So other than that, then that'll be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it very much, and obviously we'll see you hopefully in the next race.